Let's now get an update on the news with Issue Today and Angela Chung. Good morning.
Good morning, Sian.
All right, so let's talk about some recent developments related to COVID-19. There had been some demonstrations by some establishments, especially gyms, about how they are forced to close their doors for now. So there have been some adjustments made, and starting today, indoor gyms will be allowed to operate under the condition that they can only accept 9 people, and they have to be also children who are receiving some sort of physical education. Is that right?
Yes, as much as it sounds a bit confusing, the Central Disaster Management Headquarters did announce yesterday that some gyms can reopen, but only for 9 or fewer children and students at a given time. This makes us question if we can start going back to gyms or some yoga classes, but unfortunately, this isn't the case. It's because the main reason for the government to take this action is to ease the burdens of childcare. So the measure is in line with the same exemption given to some indoor training facilities that provide education programs such as taekwondo studios.
Okay. So these loosened sort of regulations, what facilities are now allowed to open?
So as long as a gym or studio functions as a and registered as an educational academy, it can open. To name some, there are jumping rope class, soccer class, fencing school, hapkido, judo, and ballet studio.
Yes. So once again, these are kind of registered for giving classes, especially to children. These are the ones that can open. And I understand that a lot of the gyms, of course, I believe 90% of their sort of customers are adults. So I assume that the gyms who had been protesting these enforced sort of closures, they're not probably too happy or satisfied with this measure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, many types of businesses that involve close physical contact have been forced to either shut entirely or restrict operating hours. So there have been a lot of demonstration by these people and even a petition signed by a lot of people on the Blue House website. They want to protest this continued shutdown. And I personally follow a lot of people who run their own studios, and they've been just uploading photos of their petitions and writing about how they feel about this new policy because they're not too happy about this and
Right.
they're confused.
They're not very satisfied with this latest measure, right? Because obviously it won't affect them if most of their customers are adults.
Right.
All right, so that must have been some also causing inconvenience for you. You're not able to go to your yoga classes as regularly.
No. I've been participating by Zoom.
All right. Well, so it shows that, again, the gyms are not quite satisfied. What is the government response, or do they have a future plan for these gyms?
So Son Young-rae, the spokesman for the Central Disaster Management Headquarters, said the authorities do understand this pain and they will allow regular gyms and singing rooms to reopen after this 17th, as long as the health guidelines are maintained. And as we all know, the numerous owners have not been able to operate their businesses and make a living for the 6 consecutive weeks now. So the government stated they will categorize the types of businesses in as detailed a way as possible. And so they can do their best to minimize the number of businesses having to temporarily close.
All right. Well, we are seeing that sort of trending numbers in the COVID-19 daily cases. They are slowly but surely going down. Hopefully, by the 17th, we can relax some of those measures. Now, on to some different news. Starting today, all foreigners entering Korea will have to have tested negative for COVID-19, and they'll have to provide proof that they tested negative before entering.
Yes, so starting today, like you said, all foreigners who are entering Korea by air must submit a medical form, which is a result from PCR test, verifying they have tested negative from their country of departure. So those who arrive in Korea by sea will have to do the same, but starting on January 15th. Only forms that have been obtained 72 hours before their departures to Korea will be accepted.
So this is the strictest measure ever for incoming foreigners that have been introduced by the government so far in this pandemic. I'm assuming it could be because of the new, very transmissible variant.
Yes, you're right. So this is to prevent an influx of new coronavirus variants circulating in Britain and South Africa. These new strains are believed to be up to 70% more infectious than previous strains and have so far produced 12 patients in Korea. So Korean authorities announced to extend the bans on all flights from Britain by 2 more weeks, which is until January 21st.
Okay, so that's regarding foreigners who want to come into Korea. Now let's talk about how people here have been coping, not able to travel abroad. Let's talk about that, how people are feeling.
So, Seoul Tourism Organization just presented a survey on how domestic and international people in 6 different languages feel about traveling in the midst of COVID-19. A surprising result was that people around the world hugely depend on social media to quench their thirst with the frustration of not being able to travel as much or at all.
Would you also say the same? Have you been able to satisfy your thirst to travel by just going on social media?
Yes, I do. I look up a lot of pictures from
Yeah?
the past or just the images of different
Yeah.
cities.
For me, I take a different approach. I try not to look at them because it just makes it even worse for me. So I try not to. But I understand because a lot of people are on their devices and they're on the internet a lot more because we are staying home more in general as well.
Right. So, as to a question which digital content stimulates their desire to travel the most, many respondents said creators' travel video. And this was the second most answer. But would you like to guess which was the first?
Well, I have to guess because you didn't provide the answer. And by the way, Angela, you should provide the answer for the host.
So, actually,
Yeah, I will venture a guess. Maybe those like travel videos put out by like the tourism organization because like Korea, of course, that went viral, right?
right.
But I could see by your response. No, that's not the correct answer.
That was close, but the number one answer was actually videos of just landscape and just grand nature. And I strongly agree with this because from time to time, whenever I get stressed or a little bit lonely inside of my room, I watch those videos of just nature
Right.
along with the music, and it just calms me down and
That
relieves
I
stress.
can relate to, yeah. So it doesn't have to be sort of formed content or made content. It's just the
Right.
landscape. It's just how or what we would see if we did actually go abroad somewhere.
Right.
Okay. Was there any difference, though, in the replies between the Korean sort of respondents and maybe those from overseas?
Yeah, so although almost 80% of both domestic and international people responded they would just love to go travel abroad, their plans for when were quite different. Because domestic people said they would go overseas only when the COVID-19 comes to an end. But international people said they would have no problem really going abroad when self-quarantine after overseas flight is no longer mandatory.
And that would only happen if the vaccines become widespread, right?
Yes, and I was quite surprised. Just a few nights ago, I talked to my best friend in the States, and she said she just booked a flight to Korea.
Oh,
and that
for
was
when?
For this September.
I see.
Yes.
Why September? Because of any special plans for September? Or she feels that's when vaccines will be widespread and safe to travel again?
Yes, she just booked it for September because it's her birthday.
I see.
And also, although she just really strongly believes she'll be able to get a vaccine by then.
All right. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that she can make it out here and that people can travel at least within the year. Thanks as always, Angela.
Thank you very much.
Have a great week and I'll see you on Monday.